Hello, friends. It's time to kick it with the giants once again. We're continuing the series exploring giants. And on today's episode, I'm going to check out the feisty, fiery fire giant. When I was growing up playing AD&D, there was a picture of the fire giant, which was cool, but he looked like a total dolt. Now, if you encountered a fire giant, you'll know that they're not to be trifled with. They are deadly. But I think what's cool is that in the 5th edition Monster Manual, they explore a little bit more about the lore. I intentionally made that rhyme. To make the fire giant a little more interesting and to give it a little more flavor, and to kind of give you a sense of where the fire giant is in the ordering, in the rankings of giant society. So let's delve in to find out a little bit more about the fire giant, and then I'll share my ideas with you about how we can use these guys in campaigns and adventures. Master crafters and organized warriors, fire giants dwell among volcanoes, lava flows, and rocky mountains. They are ruthless, militaristic brutes whose mastery of metalwork is legendary. Fire giant fortresses are built around and inside volcanoes or near magma-filled caverns. The blistering heat of their homes fuels the fire giants' forges and causes the iron of their fortress walls to glow a comforting orange. In lands far removed from volcanic heat, fire giants mine coal to burn. Traditional smithies occupy places of honor in their dimenses, and the giants' stony fortresses constantly belch plumes of sooty smoke. In more remote outposts, fire giants burn wood to keep their forges' fires lit, deforesting leagues of land in all directions. So right off the bat, you guys, when we read that opening kind of intro about the setting in which you would find fire giants, and it provides so many ideas if we do a close read of that. So for example, we understand right off the bat that they are craftsmen, people who are focused on blacksmithing, metallurgy, weaponsmithing, forging, basically working with metals, okay? So of course we would jump to some easy ideas there, right? Like the idea that, traditionally in fantasy tropes, like dwarves are the masters of crafting and forging and metalworking. But here's an example where you could play with that trope and integrate fire giants in a way where, they're not going to be friends with the party, right? But maybe this could be a stepping stone to something so that the party might find out something that's lore related. So here's an example of me popping in. I know I said I'd go through the book stuff first and then share my ideas, but I can't help it. When I read something and I immediately have an idea, I want to share with you kind of my process. So as a DM, I think about this idea of them being their home bases kind of being also linked to forging metals. It makes me think that maybe there's a secret that these fire giants possess about forging metals in such a fashion that makes them extremely durable or extremely sharp, right? Now you could put your own spin on this as well. It doesn't have to be directly, D&D rules as written, right? So you could have silvered weapons or mithril weapons or just plus something weapons of sharpness, But the point is that you take this idea that the fire giants have this, millennia-old knowledge of secret forging techniques, and you put that out there as a little adventure seed possibility, so that maybe your more ambitious party might be like, oh, hey, let's go steal the secret. Let's go steal the secret recipe of learning how to forge these weapons this way. Now, maybe you don't have an ambitious party, but you have an ambitious noble lord who wants to make a move towards becoming the king of the kingdom, or wants to move up in the faction wars of whatever conflicts are going in the setting that your game is run in. Have some ambitious NPC lord, a wizard, whatever, seek to learn the secret of the fire giant's crafting, so that they can build the ultimate, army. And the more I think about this, the more I think of like the Tolkien, Lord of the Rings movies, the Peter Jackson movies, and Saruman building the ultimate army of the Uruk-hai. And what made those Uruk-hai special? Well, they were crossbred, but basically like they had better armor and weapons than like normal tribal orcs with lame clubs. So it makes me think like, if an ambitious wizard, lord, whatever, bad guy wanted, or even good guy. Maybe this is a good guy NPC. But basically, you got an NPC who wants to hire the party to go steal the secret of the fire giants and their forging techniques. What makes that so special? Nothing. But here's my flex. Me being me, I think I'm pretty sure like I can make that a low-level adventure. Because I think that there's nothing like implied. You make it very clear that they are going into a fire giant lair. And fire giants will squash them if they're levels 1 through whatever, 4 or 5. But, you make it pretty clear that like they're going into a lair of fire giants, but that they are not to engage in combat because they will die. So that way, you're not setting a low-level party up for a TPK, but you tell them explicitly, like whoever is hiring them, this noble lord or wizard or king, whatever, have them explicitly say, like, do not engage in combat with these fire giants. They are deadly. And, you must only sneak into the fortress. And we do not really know what lies inside its fearsome walls, but you must, be crafty and sneak in. And somewhere somewhere near the central forge should be some kind of tome or collection of lore which indicates how they blah, 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 So basically, it's a low-level infiltration mission. And what you do is you have like the fire giant's stronghold be stocked with some like lesser things that you could engage the party with in combat, but won't maybe totally like wipe them out. Or maybe you have like 2 old fire giant like blacksmiths who live in this like once great fortress, but because all of their kind died out through wars, it's kind of just them now. And maybe they're like sleepy or drunk all the time, whatever. So you have them be kind of, powered down fire giants. Maybe they're just old and cranky and like one of them's missing a leg and the other one's, has dementia. I don't know. You can make it funny. You can make it serious. You could have it be like horrific. Up to you, your flavor. But the idea would be like as a low-level thing, right out of this gate, like I just see the opportunity of like the secret knowledge or lore that fire giants possess being valuable to other people and that beginning an adventure. Now, could this be tied into a campaign? Could it become part of a long-running thing? Of course. Because once you steal secret lore from someone, they probably want it back. They don't want their secret lore getting out. So maybe somehow some servant of fire giants escapes and they go warn another fortress of fire giants who are now pissed off that some stupid humanoid civilization stole their fire giant secrets. Another variation on that could be storming the castle, right? So maybe the party in the course of a normal adventure, low, mid-level, whatever, comes across this, what looks like an ancient, like ruined, or maybe not even ruined, but just like an ancient, abandoned fire giant stronghold. And maybe it's not ruined. Maybe everything works, but nobody's been there in centuries and nobody knows how to use all this stuff. So you kind of flip the script, and instead of stealing the secrets, you've found all the stuff. There's no fire giants guarding it. There's no one guarding it. But now you have to find a fire giant or someone, doesn't have to necessarily be a fire giant, but someone who has the knowledge of their lore to help the king not only take this stronghold that's been abandoned, but like get it operational because it has huge potential from a economic standpoint. Because if you could get this fire giant forge going, and you've got all these stores of, you know, different metals all ready to go, the ore, the raw ore ready to go in these massive giant storerooms, you just need the people with the right skills and knowledge to begin forging a whole new set of, you know, armor, weapons, blah, blah, blah. So that could be a variation on that previous theme. Okay, I'm one paragraph in, and I'm already firing off with ideas. But that's kind of what I like. You know, instead of just thinking about fire giants as like, you're in a dungeon, a fire giant attacks you. You're on a mountain, a fire giant attacks you. Or fire giants come down from their fiery mountain fortress and they attack the village. Like, those are all basic things that you could do with anything. But I think when you really look at the lore about who these guys are and try to think of storylines and adventures that integrate who they are and where they live and what their motivations are, I think it makes for kind of a richer experience. Let us continue. Fire giants shun cold as much as their cousins, the frost giants, hate heat. They can adapt to cold environments with effort, keeping their hearth fires burning bright and wearing heavy woolen clothing and furs to stay warm. Oh, that's interesting. So that lets you flip the script too. Maybe in some far, like, north, you know, region, you have this strange anomaly where you have like this one mountain that the snow always melts off of. Well, why? All the other mountains around, the snow, you know, are covered in snow peaks, but like even in the coldest winter, the snow melts off this mountain and it's always just rocky and kind of steaming. Well, maybe because inside that mountain is, you know, a volcanic flow that heats the fires of this fire giant, this hidden fire giant domain. And maybe the fire giants don't mind that people know they're there because they're strong enough to defend their place. But maybe you have a murder hobo party that's really ambitious and wants to like raid their stronghold. And that could be a good higher level thing. Because at higher level, they're confident and maybe cocky enough to think like, yeah, we should go do that. Then you just find all of the monsters and you make a mega dungeon in this mountain, which ultimately the fire giants run. See? Easy. Boom. Came to me like that. Icewind Dale. There you go. You're playing in your new Rime of the Frost Maiden Icewind Dale setting, and it's the frozen, snowy mountains in the Forgotten Realms in the north, and there's this one weird mountain that doesn't have snow and ice all over it. Why? There you go. See? Just an abundance of ideas. Martial experts. From birth, a fire giant is taught to embrace a legacy of war. At the cradle, its parents chant songs of battle. As children, fire giants play at war, hurling igneous rocks at one another across the banks of magma rivers. In later years, formal martial training becomes an integral part of the life of giants. Yeah, I'm not going to read all this, but that summarizes it. You can read it, but that's yet another kind of hook, right? Giants are not typically pacifists. Fire giants are warlike. They're martial experts. So maybe there would be more than one or two if you had a higher level campaign. Wouldn't that make sense? It would be like a normal castle where you would have people who have jobs. Some of them would be defending the castle. Some of them would be just managing it, like stewards and, you know, servants, cooks. You can have a fire giant cook. See, like, you could have fun with the roles of, you know, who's in the stable keeper. Well, what's in the stable at a fire giant lair? Maybe some flying, fire-breathing, you know, creatures who are minions. But then you could also have, you know, your soldiers manning the walls and the gates, and you could have, you know, guards inside of the castle. You could have, you know, a family of fire giants who are kind of the lords of this particular fortress. You could have the blacksmith and forging area and the laborers and the miners. You could have an entire culture of fire giants. But make no mistake, all of them, no matter what their role in this fortress stronghold, all of them have been trained in battle. So they're not like commoner fire giants. They're all badass. Think about that. Feudal lords, humanoids conquered in war become, oh yeah, see, this is exactly what I was saying. They become serfs to the fire giants. The serfs work the farms and fields on the outskirts of fire giant halls and fortresses, raising livestock and harvesting fields whose bounty is almost entirely tied to the fire giant kings. Fire giant crafters work through insight and experience rather than writing or arithmetic. Though most fire giants place little worth on such frivolousness, they sometimes keep slaves at court who are versed in such skills. Serfs not destined for court or the fields, especially dwarves, are taken to the fire giants' mountainous realms to mine ore and gemstones from deep within the earth. Fire giants, low in the ordning, manage the mine tunnels and the slaves that toil there, few of which survive the difficult and dangerous work for long. Though the fire giants are skilled in the engineering of mine tunnels and the gathering of ore, they place less importance on the safety of their slaves than on smelting and working the bounty those slaves produce. So yet again, I'm inspired with like another adventure that could lead to a chain of adventures. You have, this fire giant domain that has conquered the neighboring region, right? And like no heroes have been able to break their hold on this region. And the poor people of this region are basically just enslaved. And so, here's a great opportunity for like a high-level adventure that could be more than just go kill the fire giants. Because if you just go kill the fire giants, you might end up having some serious collateral damage with the people who are trapped in the mines. Maybe the fire giants make it known clearly that anyone trying to escape or anyone trying to invade the stronghold will end up, triggering their traps and killing off the civilians and the serfs. So you put like a little bit of a moral quandary in there. Now, I don't know. For those of you old enough to remember the Indiana Jones movies, for some reason I imagine Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with the whole like mining thing and the mind control maybe. Maybe there's like, some fire giant component here where they have mind control over the slaves that make them like very docile and zombie-like and obedient. But I could also flip the script and see like, maybe there's some brave NPCs who escaped and they found your party of adventurers and they're like, please, you must help us, Then they kind of explain the whole thing about their region being conquered and how they've been enslaved by these fire giants. There you go. More adventures. Just so many adventures with these guys. Skilled artisans. Fire giants have a fearsome reputation as soldiers and conquerors, and for their ability to burn, plunder, and destroy. Yet among the giants, fire giants produce the greatest crafters and artists. They excel at smelting and smith work, as they do at the engineering of metal and stone, and the quality of their artistry shows even in their implements of destruction and their weapons of war. Fire giants strive to build the strongest fortresses and most potent siege weapons. They experiment with alloys to create the hardest armor, then forge the swords that can pierce it. Such work requires brawn and brains in equal measure, and fire giants high in the ordning tend to be the smartest and strongest of their kind. So that even triggers some ideas. What about economy? What about how does the economy and the social structure work with these giants? Maybe part of their like intent in whatever setting you have them is economic, right? Maybe I'm not saying they're like peaceful fire giants. I mean, I guess you could do that, but that's, fire giants are lawful evil. Now, even if you don't care about alignment and you're like, but I want to change things up, then don't just make them good. Think about a reason why, a narrative reason why. And here's my example of a narrative reason why that I just thought of, like the economic component, right? You could have lawful evil fire giants, but you could also have really selfish, kind of, covetous fire giants who have built this stronghold, who've enslaved and dominated the region, and they want more and more and more, but basically they've tapped out that region. So what else can they do? They can trade. Economics. They can trade. They can discover what neighboring kingdoms have that they want, and then they can provide armor, weapons, blah, 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 with siege machines, right? And they actually, instead of being, straight up like war armies, conquer, 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 move to the next place, they become very comfortable in this stronghold with all their minions dominating the region. And, they become comfortable in this aspect, and they begin to kind of transition into legitimate business. And over centuries, decades, centuries, however long you want to set this, it becomes less about evil and just killing and destroying and more about power and amassing power. And they are able to amass a tremendous amount of power because of economy, because they are able to produce the best, whatever it is, blacksmithing elements that you need. And maybe that has an impact on the region, and it makes neighboring kingdoms, even though they don't really like the fire giants, and they know morally it's not right to be doing business with them, the fire giants are providing them with the hookup. They got the hookup on the armor and the weapons and the siege machines and whatever else, metal products. Maybe it's like building, like construction products. Maybe, maybe the fire giants figured out like how to make rebar. I don't know, man. I'm just, at this point I'm just having fun with it. But the concept is that like, you don't have to just play the fire giants to a trope, oh, fire giants, kill. You can come up with really cool kind of creative storylines and figure out how they fit in your game and in their own society and how they interact with other cultures. Or do they interact with other cultures? Do they want to stay hidden? Or are they very militaristic and, imperialistic and looking to go out and conquer and expand? Or are they very settled into one very comfortable and fruitful, bountiful region, and they just want to begin trading what they have for other things that they want? So many options there. Before I wrap it up, though, I want to go through their stat block for 5e. Armor class 18, because they're wearing plate. Of course, you know that scaling makes this very simple, right? They are not dexterous at all. They have a 9 dexterity. So if you have a realistic stronghold, it doesn't mean that every fire giant's going to be wearing plate. So sometimes maybe the fire giants are just walking around like we would in our normal day clothes. Or maybe the party infiltrates at morning time and they're having breakfast in their robes and pajamas. I don't know, man. Maybe they're wearing like wool and furs. And so you could scale down a fire giant right away by just having it not wearing its armor. Now for a higher level thing where you have a lot of fire giants defending a stronghold, maybe then you have the majority of the guards on shift, on duty, wearing their armor, shields, weapons, yada yada. But if you wanted to scale it down, absolutely one easy way would be, armor. They do have a stupid amount of hit points. I mean, they are challenge rating 9, and they're giants, so they should have a stupid amount of hit points. But 13 d12 plus 78. So the lamest average is 162. That is like not enough. I mean, if you wanted to scale it down and make these easier to kill, sure. Like 140 to 162 is fine. But like I think for a competent upper high, or upper mid to lower high level group, I'm talking like your 8 through 12 range, you would most definitely have this be up in the 200s, mid 200s for hit points. Yes, so obviously they have damage immunities to fire. They have a passive perception. Am I reading that right? Holy crap. They have a passive perception of 16. So, oof. Good luck trying to sneak around those dudes. Passive. They're just, you got a guard sitting in a hallway outside of the armory. You better have a higher than a 16 stealth there, rogue. Passive perception of 16. That's really, I'm not sure I understand why. I guess because they have proficiency in perception, but yikes. Okay, multi-attacks. The giant makes 2 greatsword attacks. Melee weapon attack plus 11 to hit, reach of 10 feet, 6d6 plus 7 slashing damage. And then they could throw rocks as a ranged attack, plus 11 to hit. They have a huge range, 4d10 plus 7 bludgeoning damage. So as I'm reading this, I'm pausing to think, because as always, I like to provide ideas for how to use any monster at low, mid, high levels. Obviously, like the challenge here would be, how do you scale these guys to low level? You could reflect upon the wisdom that I shared in the previous video about having, cloud giants, but having like children, so you scale them down. I don't know that you need to do the children idea with fire giants, but you could. But another thing is certainly what I even referenced in this video earlier about, having like basically the last surviving members of a giant stronghold who are these like old fire giants, and they're physically not well, or maybe they're diseased, or one's half blind, or one's missing a leg, or they have dementia, whatever. But like you can kind of scale down fire giants with a narrative format, So maybe they're not wielding their greatswords. Maybe they don't have greatswords available. Or maybe there are no rocks available in the area. Or maybe they just do less damage, if you wanted to scale this down. So for mid-level, I think a scaled down fire giant with just fewer fire giants, who maybe aren't wearing armor, could be survivable. But I go back to my very first spin-off idea about hiring a low-level party to just infiltrate and steal a very rare tome, because the fire giants don't write down their knowledge, they pass it down generationally. But maybe in this one case, they had a very, competent slave who was a sage or a wizard or whatever, who recorded all of their techniques. And this very rare tome, this king wants you to steal it. That could be a low-level adventure, infiltrating and stealing something and getting out without waking up the fire giants. But I'm afraid that trying to scale down fire giants for a combat scenario with a low-level party would result in a TPK. I strongly think that you would have to come up with a narrative reason why the fire giant couldn't squash a level 3 party, because they could. I mean, just looking at, say you've got a party of barbarians, right? 3rd level barbarians who've decided to infiltrate a fire giant place. Even at 3rd level with max hit points and a decent con, your barbarians would have about 45 hit points, which means they'd be dead in 2 hits. And these guys make 2 hits every round. So be careful with that low-level attempt. Anyway, that's my exhaustive library of ideas on the fire giant. The fire giants are fun. Have fun using them. If you have used them as DMs, please share your stories in the comments below. Believe it or not, despite my extremely insane schedule, I take time to read the comments from my videos. So I love to read your stories about how you've used the monsters that I present here. And if you're a player and you have an epic adventure, recall that in the comments. I like to hear how you as players have encountered these monsters as well, and how that played out. So as always, thank you for supporting. Please like and subscribe. But we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.
Well, hello, it's me, Wizzy. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. And then don't forget to tune in to the next episode of whatever show you were just watching, and crafting videos and DM tips and pro tips for vlogging and all sorts of gaming things. And also you could watch Bill eat food and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.